because change is frightening when we live with dogmatic truth, limited truth. And I heard from a woman who's the instructor at the University of Manitoba some years ago when she said to me, "My truth does not deny your truth."
That's beautiful.
And the acceptance of diversity as truths living in the same space is a wonderful possibility for our society. Some of us in this room were present in Ottawa for the United Church's General Council in August, and seems quite recent in my mind. And there we dealt with the symbol of the United Church, which is a crest with 4 symbols on it, and it was formally a solid color behind the 4 symbols. Well, being subversive people who want to celebrate diversity, we suggested to the General Council that the 4 colors of the 4 peoples of the 4 directions would be an interesting background to acknowledge diversity as gift, and not really to alter the crest in any sense, except to enhance this sense of gift of diversity. That all may be one. It has been written in Latin for generations on the United Church crest. We suggested all my relations. And there's a difference between cloning and respecting. Much of the education in North America for First Peoples has been about cloning, about inclusion into the society by making us civilized. That has meant certain things, and I think the church has been caught in it. So we're suggesting all my relations is a liberation. We no longer have to be the same to live in love and relationship and respect. We can now be people who we are, as we are, of the family of hope. And,
absolutely. When 9/11 happened, a friend of mine, the Reverend Dr. Karen Hamilton, who is now the Secretary General of the Canadian Council for Churches, she was the minister of the St. James Bond United Church in Toronto, and she called me and said, "Raheel, I need a Muslim to come and speak to my congregation," and I was terrified. And I said to her, "What can I say?" And she said, "I would want her to be a Muslim woman, and would you come and speak to my congregation?" And it was perhaps one of the hardest things that I ever did. And I said, yes, I would come. And I went to her church and her congregation, and the hall was full. And, you know, we wept together. We shared. And it was very, very inspirational in the end, because we were able to share the grief of humanity. And since then, I guess I was standing at a church pulpit every Sunday. My sister is very concerned. She thinks I am converting. And I tell her that, no, this is not about conversion. This is about sharing, as I said to you at the beginning, heart to heart. I have always said that, you know, I work with the United Church of Canada because they're very liberal, and the dialogue between liberals of all faiths is very easy. But try a dialogue between the fundamentalists of one faith and the liberals. That is non-existent as well, and that is the challenge.
We have so many preconceptions about each other, and we don't begin with story. We begin with the dogmatic difference. And I think much of the interfaith dialogue that I have been party to has been at an academic level, an attempt to sort out the fine points of who we are, and losing in that conversation, I think, the possibilities that we can be people after all.
And I wondered if you might say a little bit about how that has been to both be within a tradition and challenging the tradition, to be seeing the truth and justice that can be a gift of that tradition, and yet see the tradition not live out of its own teaching.
One of the things I learned over the years was that you can say almost anything you want if you smile. So it disarms people. You know, they should be very angry at you, but you're smiling. You know, so I think that's one approach. But really, I have spent a lot of time. I still remember, you remind me of my first meeting at Northland Presbytery when I was an ordinand. And I went from a Cree village with some elders to the meeting of Presbytery. And the meeting went on for 3 days, and nothing was offered in Cree. The meeting was carried on as though we weren't there. And people were making decisions for us, and my anger was growing. And at the end of the meeting on the last day, I was somewhat, as you described yourself, I got up and I boiled over. and my anger was flung everywhere. I was just totally frustrated. But no one seemed to understand why I was angry. I was so caught up in my frustration that I couldn't communicate. So when I went home, the elders talked with me and said, "You're going to have to learn how to be respectful. You're going to have to learn to work with people where they are, and then develop some patience." I've not been able to do any of those things, but I still think about it. You know, so I think the thing that I do live with, is that the passion, the sometimes anger, deep anger, and pain gives energy for creative living. And
there is a line from the Quran which says, "Condemn that which is wrong and uphold that which is good." And this is, to me, the crux of the work that I do, which means that if there is violence in the name of my faith, I have to condemn it and I have to speak about it. What happens in this journey? Well, there are two things. One, my gender. The fact that I'm a woman makes it very hard in a world which is very patriarchal. And secondly, because of, in the interest of truth and justice and to bring about change, I have to speak about these conflict-ridden issues. Many people accuse me of not being spiritual. And so, while not giving an explanation, I mean, that spirituality is deeply embedded in my heart. And, you know, it's between me and my Creator. But the work that has to be done in this world, physically, the reality of day-to-day life, and of dealing with issues like a 14-year-old girl being shot in the head because she wanted to be educated, is a wake-up call to realize that there are rights that need to be given back. We have to reclaim a lot of this. And that is an ongoing challenge. And when I talked about keeping the balance, that is what I meant.
And I, too, at moments flare in my anger with systemic ignorance, systemic problems, such as the minister from this part of the country who has cut back funding for chaplaincy to people of diverse backgrounds. For me, that kind of behavior is so reflective of our historic injustice and our incapacity to acknowledge with respect that people of different backgrounds require care within their cultural and faith tradition.
I guess in my journey of diversity, transformation, and hope, I have looked upon every stepping stone, every challenge as a gift from the Creator. And I've tried to embrace it no matter where it was or who it was, whether it's my children or whether it's my life. And these are our learning tools. The people we meet, I think the biggest hope for me and optimism has been every individual that I have met on this journey. And they have left an impact and some form of learning. It's up to us whether we embrace that learning or not, and we share and we give back. And so it becomes a circle again, and that is the circle of life.
Within the First Nations community, within my own village, one of the signs of hope for us is the birth of a child. And as a grandparent, I now recognize more the significance of that event. But the gift of a child is always an opportunity for the community to get things right. We don't, but it's an opportunity. And
my hope is in dialogue. My hope is when we talk to people. And Canadians are reserved. So, by and large, and not well, let me rephrase that. Political correctness comes in the way of honest dialogue. And I have never been politically correct, as you may have gathered, because I will go up to someone and say, where are you from? And I love it when little children on the train ask their mother, why is she wearing a earring in her nose? Because sometimes people think it's religious. They don't know that, 30 years ago it was the height of fashion. And so, now I can't take it off. It is again.
Yes, and I think the other piece of hope that I find is significant are the stories of those who have life experience. And there are many in the room who have life experience. And the history of the diaconia, the sense of service and hope is embedded in the preparation of many people who are here tonight and people who are gathered this weekend. I think that dynamic of standing without pomp and ceremony, but with readiness to be in the community, is a wonderful gift for our society. And there are things that need to be carried on, but changed, transformed. So our earlier discussion about diversity and transformation, I think, is also a leading into the possibility that our stories of old reveal some truth of hopefulness for what is ahead of us, for what we will yet encounter.